All right. Hello, everybody, and welcome to the 52nd anniversary of the infamous D.B. Cooper hijacking that happened back in November of 1971. As you can see, our esteemed guest, Ryan Burns, Esquire, is back to talk some all things Cooper and to commemorate the day, because I think we should always commemorate D.B. Cooper Day, which some people think it should have been on every Thanksgiving Eve, but I think somehow officially it became uh, November 24th, since it is the actual. No, it's 53rd. Thanks, Nikki corrected me. 53rd anniversary. My
No,
bad.
no, no, no.
Is it
No,
52nd?
Nikki can't
Okay.
add. It's 52nd. It's not the
All right. You
53rd.
see, Nikki's already messing with me. I thought it's
Yeah,
52nd because
no.
I was born in 69, so I'm 54. So all right,
Well, and I don't
Nikki.
understand these people who are wanting to make it like the
Nikki's
day
just.
before Thanksgiving. I'm like, Pearl Harbor didn't happen. You don't say, oh, it's the 18th day. It's the 18th day before Christmas was Pearl Harbor. It was December 7th.
There you go. And I want to go back to Jay's.
I mean,
I got to put Jay's comment up here.
oh, that's cold-blooded, Jay.
Not only is he tying into the usual suspects, but he's got to do the Vince Peterson joke, which I love that.
That's really funny.
Okay.
That's funny, James.
That's funny. Okay, so Ryan, you're fresh off of coming back from CooperCon, but I got to put this up. I've got two pictures here, of course, but this is so freaking cool. You're on the front page of the Seattle Times. I mean, that's awesome, and then it says, talks about you down there in the caption of it, and then has a shot of you on stage, and then of course you've got the copycat background. When did you know you were going to be on the front page?
Hell no. No.
So did that come out today? I think Nikki put it up first.
No, it
or
came
that's
out
the first
the
place
day
I
after.
saw it.
No, that was the Saturday after the Friday was, we had a thing on Friday and then Saturday. So
I didn't see it till today.
Yeah, I wasn't expecting to be on there.
That is awesome. I mean,
typically it's Eric. You know, Eric's the pretty face.
Yeah,
Eric is the pretty face that they put on the newspaper front. So,
but they happened to be there when you were on stage talking about the copycats, which of course is going to be in your upcoming book. So how did it go? What just give us a good recap of CooperCon.
Oh man, it was a good one. I tell you, moving the event to Seattle is just a tremendous upgrade from Vancouver. I mean, Vancouver's cool and all, and it was quaint, but Seattle is easier to get to for everybody to fly there, and it's just a better venue, a very cool venue. I mean, that museum of flight is special. You know, that's a cool. I mean, they have an SR-71 there. They have a 727-100 there. It was not open for us. They have had it open in the past. Go into the 727-100, but the exhibit was shut down when we were there. It was like, of all the times, you know, I really wanted to go into that thing, right? I wanted to see, you know, how it looks inside there, to see how far Bill sat from Cooper, right? To know that distance. But it was closed. But it was cool though. I mean, you
could only see it from the outside. You know, they used to let people go inside.
But yeah, they have little stairs that go up to the front. But I mean, on Friday night, you know, we had on Friday night, you know, Larry Carr was the guest. On Saturday, Bill Mitchell was the big guest. And of course, on Sunday, we had Mark McNally, who actually jumped out of one of these things with $500,000 strapped to his body. There he is.
Yeah, that's you and Mac on the right. And then that's a picture of Mac back when he was
arrested. Yeah,
arrested. I guess that's and he's smiling for his he's handcuffed there, isn't he? He's wearing handcuffs.
Yeah, and he said, so somebody asked him, I think it was a little girl in the audience, I think it was Kelly Gesterman's daughter, said, "Why are you smiling in that picture? You were just arrested." And he said, "Well, I thought to myself, I can either smile or I can cry." And, you know, I figured I'd smile for the photo, you know, all my photos. So he's smiling in all of his photos, he's smiling. So, yeah. You know, and he's not the only one. You know, Richard LaPointe always smiled in his photos, and Rob Hetty always smiled in his photos after he was arrested. So 3 out of our 5 copycats are smilers in their photos. So
yeah, I mean, maybe that's some sign of mental illness, or now that you know Max so well. Of course, he did a more totally daring skydive, $500,000, of course, hit the ground. He was kind of hurt, and he laid there. And of course, you've got Max stories out there. It's in the American Skyjacker podcast, of course. Is it Hijacker or Skyjacker?
American Skyjacker is his podcast. Yeah.
American Skyjacker, right? Podcast, which details his, and I think they're doing a movie about Mac too, right?
Yes. American Skyjacker is coming out soon.
Same name.
And then last month, the hijacking of American Flight 119 came out, which is a book about his hijacking, which was on Amazon, which is a great book.
Wow, so, definitely, everybody check that out. Go look for that.
But it seems like you were about to ask me about what I think about him.
Yeah, like now that you've gotten to know him so well, like you know him really well now. You've been talking to him well over a year. I remember when you first made contact with him, and he was talking to you, and you were so excited about it. But now you've gotten to know him, and what do you think about him overall? I mean, just a crazy stunt somebody did when they were young, and would never do it again. But I think he's kind of gullible, isn't he? Like in certain ways, still. But he was in prison for a long time, so you could probably attribute.
He was in prison for 38 years. Now, I would say the thing about Mac is that Mac was a bank robber. I mean, Mac would have robbed a bank if it had occurred to him to rob a bank. Mac was a criminal. I mean, whereas the other guys like McCoy and Hetty and LaPointe, they were Vietnam veteran guys who were messed up. And then you have Heineman and Fisher, who were like middle-aged losers, basically, kind of despondent about everything. And so Mac is his own category of copycat. Mac is like I said, Mac told us that when he got the idea to do the hijacking, when he heard about D.B. Cooper, he was casing out routes of Brinks trucks. I mean, he was going to try to rob out. I mean, he was planning to rob Brinks trucks. So, like I said, Mac is a legitimate. Like Mac would have robbed a bank if it had occurred to him. So, he is the only copycat that I know of who is straight up a criminal in that sense. And I made sure to point out when we were on stage, when I interviewed him, I said, "Look, what was your criminal history? Were you a felon when this happened?" He goes, "Yeah, I was already a felon. He had already been convicted of burglary." So, I made sure to mention that he was not just some, Rob Hetty had been back Rob Hetty had been back from Vietnam 2 weeks when he committed his copycat hijacking. I mean, he was still like shell shocked from, battle.
Yeah.
So his mental state was not good. And then you have LaPointe who was tore up. LaPointe was a door gunner. It was a door gunner. And famously when LaPointe came back and did the hijacking, LaPointe broke his ankle during his jump. And the judge at his initial appearance the next day said, "Well, son, you're going to get free health care for your ankle there." And LaPointe says, "How about some free mental care?" So he was mentally messed up and knew he was mentally messed up because he was asking for psychiatric care because he knew his brain wasn't there. And of course, McCoy was suicidal and kind of PTSD himself a little bit.
You think McCoy was suicidal?
Yeah. I mean, if you read the book, his probation officer, when they were doing, they had him on suicide watch pretty early on, and they said he had been suicidal during the military as well. There was a psych eval done on him. Yeah. It's in the Real McCoy book that they did a psych evaluation on him, and they determined he had been suicidal for a while.
I wonder if he had some underlying mental illness, or was it combat, or I didn't really know.
I think it's just combat. I think the combat really affected him. I think and made him kind of messed up. I mean, he was always, he's one of those guys like Braden who almost was like trying to get himself killed, but like was too good at surviving.
Yeah. Braden I think was definitely mentally ill from all the combat and from 16. Jim Hedrick said he thought Dead's mentally ill. Said that's what kept him from being the greatest soldier ever. Was his mental illness.
I always think about Braden. I always think about like in Platoon, like Sergeant Barnes in Platoon. Like he's been in the country too long. Oh
yeah, way too long. Like the guy says, way under comp.
The guy, the guy in Platoon says, Barnes been shot 6 times and he's still alive. The only thing that can kill Barnes is Barnes. It's like the only thing that can kill Braden is Braden.
Yeah. Yeah, way too much combat for way too long, but it does Mac was definitely a hit. That was awesome that you got him to go to CooperCon and everybody.
Mac was the
pictures with him and yeah, that's amazing. So how long? So he spoke for a while and gave all the details.
Yeah, he had 2 hours on Sunday, but Wednesday night, Thursday night, Friday night, Saturday night, Sunday night, everybody went out with Mac. Everybody had beers and it was great. And next year, I'd like to get Rob Hetty out there. Rob Hetty's still alive, and Rob Hetty is night and day different than Mac, right? I mean, Rob Hetty was the NCAA like champion skydiver, literally in like 1969, 1970. You know, he goes to Vietnam, comes back, is messed up, comes from a great family. Not that Mac came from a great family too. But Rob Hetty, Mac spent 38 years in prison, kept trying to escape. Rob Hetty was out of prison in 7 years, got an accounting degree in prison, became an accountant, a successful accountant. So, you know, just a real. I would like to have Hetty there next year, just to contrast the two people.
Yeah,
because it's like,
how old is he now?
Where does Rob is 75 or 76? I mean, and so like, you know, where does Cooper fit on the spectrum, right? So you have all this spectrum of a guy like Hetty, who's this Vietnam guy, you know, who was, you know, became, you know, something, I guess. Then you have Mac, who was a career criminal. It's like, you know, where does Cooper fit on this spectrum of hijackers, right? Or was Cooper ill like Heinemann, you know? I don't know.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's why it's so great that you're digging into all the copycats and what you can learn from them.
Yeah, he was. I mean, Cooper's somewhere on this.
What made him choose their name?
Spectrum. Yeah, even how they choose the name. Yeah, I mean, like, you know, I asked McNally these things. I was like, "Why did you choose Robert Wilson?" He goes, "Well, it would be easy to remember." He said in case somebody just called his name Robert, he'd go, "Okay, yeah," you know. And Dan Cooper is easy to remember too. You know, so
yeah.
It's a very basic white guy name is what Mac did. And like, you know, Mac was great. And you see a lot of people, I made sure to ask in the time I had, you know, Coopery questions to Mac, right? For example, like Mac wore a suit. Mac wore a suit and tie and nice shoes on a plane. And I said, why did you do that? He goes, well, I wanted to appear like nobody. I wanted to blend in, right? I wanted to look normal, you know? And Mac had jeans and a polo shirt under his suit. You know, Mac threw his suit out the back of the plane. You know, which I mean, now Cooper, we know Cooper jumped wearing the suit, right? Because he had already had everything on him and strapped and tied to his body when team last saw him. But that's not to say that it didn't when he landed take off the suit. And you know, Mac's thing was Mac said, I didn't want to land on the ground looking like the description of the hijacker. You know, I wanted to be looking different as soon as I landed on the ground. So, you know, Mac told his stewardesses to go to the front, close the curtain, and then he changed out of his clothes, right? He changed out of his suit. And what's funny is he threw his clothes out the back, and the FBI, when they found his like suit pants, they were like, "Oh, the hijacker exited at such a speed that his pants, you know, ripped off of him." So that's what they were thinking. Kind of funny.
I like how you're getting into the whole psychology of it all, because what you said about Cooper and him. He asked for a knapsack, and of course, they brought the money in a canvas bank bag, right? And how he spent so much time, you know, cutting the shroud lines from one of the parachutes he wasn't going to use, and strapping that to his body, and spending so much time and effort on that.
An hour
when he could have just demanded it. When he could have just said, "Hey, we're not doing anything till you give me what I asked for." I love that. I mean, I don't know how that would play into Braden or anybody else, but I love that because that is so. A window into his mind. You know, it reminds me of the movie Tin Cup, you know, where he could win the US Open, but he keeps hitting that one crazy shot and falling further behind because I gotta hit the, you know, like a weird OCD thing, you know?
Well, and consider this. So Tom Kay told us something interesting too. Tom Kay told us that he had been looking, that I'd never known this before. So the shroud lines, Cooper cut these, let me fix my camera. So, Cooper cut the shroud. Cooper cuts these shroud lines, and the shroud lines are attached to this there's just like bone. Just imagine like a bone, like a backbone of the parachute container. Okay, there's this backbone, and all the shroud lines are knotted. Like there's, I don't know how many shroud lines, 20 or whatever, right? They're all knotted really tightly right down here, right?
Yeah.
Now Cooper could have just grabbed it and done like this. Like just cut it. You just think he would just grab all the shroud lines and just cut like that, right?
To cut the knot off.
Well, yeah, Cooper actually cut like. I mean, you think you just gather the shroud lines together and just cut like this, right? And here's the container.
Yeah.
Cut. No, Cooper did like a psychopath. Tom said he cut down each knot, down the backbone, like cut the knots. Like
like surgical.
Why would you take the time to do that instead of just grabbing them and cutting them? Really strange.
That is strange. I mean, that's insight. That's insight into whoever it is. I mean, that
Yeah,
would
like
do that. Like,
why would he do that? I mean, bizarre.
yeah,
And
that's
again, like you
like
said,
a total OCD kind of like, yeah,
yes,
like you said, he could have demanded what he asked for. I mean, they could have found one down there in the airport, like you said.
oh,
You know, he
easily.
said,
I mean, just
where is my knapsack?
yeah, go grab a book bag off some kid in the airport and bring it here.
Yeah,
You
would
know,
have
I
been way
mean,
better.
instead he spends an hour and a half tying up this Looney Tunes money
Fashioning this
bag.
around his body.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's
Like he's
crazy.
trying to prove
I mean,
something to himself.
yeah, yeah, exactly. I don't get it. I mean, the psychology of it is
Yeah.
bizarre.
That
I
is
don't. It's
that is a huge insight into whoever
it's a
people
yeah,
think
it's a
Cooper is,
tell. I
that he
think
would do that.
OCD. I think maybe
Because
is
he
the way
has to
that.
do that without, yeah, it's a total OCD, you know, did so many things right, but he's going to waste all that precious time into fashioning this thing around his body. And then
Yeah.
obviously it may not have held up because we know they found $5,800 in 1980, but I love that
Yeah. I
insight
mean, he
into that.
said.
But
I
that's
always use the
interesting that Tom
term.
said that.
I always use the term, MacGyvering. He like MacGyvers this money
Yeah.
bag. It's like, what is he doing?
Yeah.
Like,
He's
what?
going to work with what he's got on him. You know, he had the
I mean,
knife
think
with
about
him.
that. I mean, consider that. Think about that, Drew. He could just say, "Hey, where's my knapsack?" And they walk off the plane, go to my knapsack. But instead, he has to open a parachute, cut shroud lines, cut them down
Intricately.
surgically, then intricately. Then he wraps the money bag over and under, and then makes a handle for the money bag. Then ties a rope around his waist. Then ties that rope to the money bag handle. And it's like, I mean, literally, when they're taking off from Seattle, Tina says when they took off, he was still doing that. So, like, and that
He
again
was
tells me
obsessed
that
with
he
it.
wasn't planning on. Yeah, and that again actually tells that's a tell too that people like to say that he wanted to jump outside Seattle. They say, oh, he wanted to jump at Seattle, outside Seattle. I don't think so. I always think he wanted to go back to Portland because,
Yeah,
I think
because Portland's how he got there. He came from
yes,
Portland, so if he left a car or truck or
right.
whatever,
Yeah.
however he got there, he may have had a way back. You know, if he left any vehicle there, hidden.
That's right.
Back in Portland, he wanted to jump closer to Portland to get back to however he got to Portland, but he could have flown in. Who knows?
Yeah, but see, the problem with the Seattle jump is when they take off, he's still not ready. So like if he was going to jump in Seattle, he could just say, "Hey, wait a second, I'm not ready yet," right? But he said, "Let's go." Right?
Yeah.
So like he knew he had some time. I mean, he was dead reckoning 30 minutes to Portland or whatever, But I mean, if he was going to jump in Seattle, why would he take off without being ready to jump? You see what I'm saying? It's like I don't think he was jumping in Seattle. But see, the thing is, people say that because he wanted the stairs down at takeoff. Well, look, he wanted the stairs down at takeoff for two reasons, right? He wanted to guarantee that he wasn't going to be trapped in there, for one thing. I'm like, I want to keep it down. I don't want exactly the flying aluminum jail cell, right? And number two, he wanted to maximize the amount of time that they thought he had jumped, right? Because he had no idea that the pressure bump was going to give his jump time away, right? So he knew that whenever they landed in Reno, he's thinking ahead. He knew that when they landed in Reno, they're going to go, "Oh shit, he's not here," and that's going to make them go, "Well, the stairs were down in Seattle, so he could be anywhere from Seattle to Reno, right?" They didn't. So he wants to maximize the amount of time that they think you could have jumped. That's what I think. I mean, I don't think he wanted to jump in Seattle. Like you said, his transportation was in Portland, probably.
Yeah, whatever it was.
Yeah. But an accomplice or his own car, his own 18-wheeler. If you're talking about Braden, if it's Braden, it's parked. If it's Braden, it's probably parked at the Consolidated Freightways truck stop.
Yeah, it was right there in downtown Portland. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, think about that.
I wouldn't have noticed anything.
A 5 to 10 mile hike, is nothing to him. That's
nothing. Yeah, he was in really good shape for a middle-aged guy.
Sure, absolutely. But it was a good time. Let's see. So Larry Carr was there, which was nice. Let's see. Bill Mitchell was there, walking around with his,
I saw that
his
with his ticket,
ticket just shoved in his back pocket.
Yeah, just shoved in his back pocket. I mean, can you imagine what that would be worth on the open market? A ticket from 305, especially belonging to Bill. Of course, Cooper's ticket would be worth the most, but Bill's ticket alone from 305, what that would bring at auction. It couldn't even.
Well, speaking of things that are going to come at auction, one thing that we're going to do, we discussed this over dinner one night, me and Tom Cade, some other people. So basically, do you know what a star note is on a dollar, like a star note? So
No, I think I heard something about it. I know there's not many, but
yeah. So basically, every now and then the Treasury Department, I forget exactly what it is, but they screw up something on dollars or on $20 bills, $100 bills, whatever. And they'll put a star at the end of the dollar, at the end of the serial number, they'll put a star, right? Now, star notes are collector's items. Like collectors buy them on eBay and trade them. And, people who are into dollars, so that's a lot of people. I mean, look, the Reddit for paper money has 125,000 followers. Like there's just collectors, collect these things, right? Well, of the Cooper serial numbers, 331 of them are star notes. So I did the day before Thanksgiving, I went and manually entered on a spreadsheet every star note number, right? So I'm going to make a web page that has all the star notes in there, right? So you can put basically I'll put on Reddit, hey, look, all you people who collect star notes, look for 1963 or 1969 $20 bill star notes and type your star note number into this database.
Oh, because your star note, that is smart.
Yeah, because your star
maybe
note,
one of the bills you could find it by being a star note. Most of them are what, 69 $20 bills.
Yeah, 69 or 63A they're called. Yeah, so like the thing is, hey, your star note that you think is worth $80 might be worth $50,000 because it's going to be a pristine Cooper bill, right?
Yeah.
And so
not have been put in bleach or whatever the Ingrams did to it.
Yeah. And so that is the thing is, at least that'll tell us that, hey, he survived. That he didn't.
Oh, that's an amazing idea.
Yeah.
So how did they become? How did those happen to be? How did those $20 bills for the ransom money that was already set aside for something like that? What happened with the hijacking? How did those happen to be star notes? Was it just a coincidence or
just a coincidence? I believe one out of every 80 bills in currency is a star note. So
one out of how many?
It's like 80 maybe.
Okay, one out of 80.
One out of every 80. Yeah, if you went and got $100 out of a bank, one might be a star note. So I mean, they're like one out of 100, sort of, or one out of 80, something like that. So they exist.
So there'd be a certain amount of star notes for that many bills just randomly happening.
Just randomly,
and that would have been a bill you would keep, obviously.
Yeah, so it's a lot harder to go through and say, hey, check your 1969 $20 bill against this number. But a star note, like I said, are collector's items. And so, I went on eBay the other day. I went on eBay the other day and I looked for those star notes. I looked for 63 and 69 star notes. There's 200 of them on there. And I actually checked all of them against the star note numbers. None of them matched, but I was like, man, if some poor guy in Iowa was about to get ripped off by Ryan Burns in Mississippi, because if I had spotted one of those Cooper star notes,
you're not going to tell him what it is.
$40. Yeah, I'd have bought it for $40. I'm like,
all day long.
I know.
That's absolutely a great idea.
You bet your ass.
That's amazing. That's an amazing. That's thinking outside of the box. I mean, that's
and that might actually produce something.
Yeah. Oh, if they find one of those bills, that's mind blowing if one comes up, but it would change history. I mean, it would. It tells you he made it.
It's like
one got into circulation.
It's like how they sign it. They say if you find one molecule on Mars, right, it proves that there's life in the galaxy.
Life.
Right?
Yeah.
Like all you need is one Cooper bill in circulation to prove because here's the thing, the lifespan of a $20 bill, this is in the FBI files. In 1971, the FBI wrote to the Treasury Department and said, hey, what's the lifespan of a $20 bill currently? And it was 2 years before they were pulled from circulation.
In circulation,
I guess because currency, because back then,
it's getting handled.
Cash was handled more than it is now. Cash was everything, right? So they only lasted 2 years. And see, they didn't start cataloging the serial numbers of destroyed currency until 1990. So there's a good chance. There's a good chance that all the Cooper bills entered circulation and just were destroyed without ever having their numbers recorded. But star notes, even back then, were collector's items. So those would have been saved.
Someone would have held on to it for that reason alone, and it would have,
Yeah,
kept it from being destroyed or back, or the government destroys it because it's been in circulation for that time and they take it out.
And also, too,
That's a
it may
great
tell a story,
idea.
too. I mean, the star note, let's just say we find a star note. That person who has it bought it from somebody. And maybe that somebody's still around, right? So maybe they know where they got it from.
Right. You can trace it back to wherever he bought it or wherever it originated from.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah.
And
so
there's a clue.
It could be, I don't know. Yeah, it's a clue. So it's a clue. I mean, like I said, people can laugh at that, but it's like, dude, we're just grasping at straws here. 52 years later, we have nothing.
But that's smart, though. No, that's smart. That's the, that's a focus type search to look for those star notes. I mean, there definitely could be one out there. That is, it sounds like a needle in a haystack, and it probably is, but it's worth it.
Yeah, it's just may as well try. And like I said, that would prove at least he survived. Almost certainly that he survived.
So what was the thing that they want to do with the parachute that belongs to the museum? Because I was talking to Bruce Smith a little bit, emailing with him. Shout out to Bruce. I was trying to get Bruce on. I think he's been busy, and I'm going to have Bruce on again definitely for you, Scribble. Scribble's out there, our favorite rap artist, Scribble. Yeah. I know you're watching. So what is it they want to test that the other parachute that Cooper didn't take that belongs to the museum, and the museum
so I don't want to.
What's the whole deal with that?
Yeah. So for all of you who are on Facebook, Pat Boland, everyone's favorite Cooper mom, Pat Boland, and Tessa Lauren are going to be doing a Facebook Live at the top of the hour talking about parachutes and things like that. So I don't want to step on their toes, but basically it is public knowledge now.
I didn't know what they were going to talk about, but definitely check that.
Yeah, it's about that.
Check their show out at 9. Tessa,
check them out at top of the hour on Facebook on the DB Cooper Mystery Group on Facebook. Join it and watch. But as far as the parachute, the one that the museum has, essentially Tom Kay wanted to be able to put sticky stubs on it. Kind of keep it on the tie. They want to be able to put sticky stubs on it and put that under his electron microscope, because there is some thought that maybe the tie was contaminated by the parachutes themselves, because Norm Hayden kept his parachutes inside of his machine shop where he worked with titanium and things like this, and that they would just kind of flake off onto the ground, onto the parachutes, right? And that if Cooper put the parachute on his chest or whatever and was just looking around inside of it, that maybe the tie would get contaminated. Or there is some thought that maybe with flying with the tail down, flying with the stairs down, or having the engines on with the stairs down when you land, some of that exhaust might come into the plane and get on the microscopic and get on the tie, get on the parachute. So basically, Tom wanted to test the parachute in the museum as a control, as a control item to say, look, does this have the same crap that the tie has on it, right? All those particles, right? And probably not, but it might. But if it did, well, then that would get rid of all the rim-proof stuff.
And he could do it right there. It's not like he's got to take it back to Arizona, right? He could just come in. Yeah, 5 minutes. He comes in with the tape, flop, and go.
Yeah, he takes the stubs away, and so the museum
it doesn't hurt it in any way.
No, and again, this is a guy that the FBI trusted with Cooper's tie itself, right? The actual Holy of Holies, right? His actual clothing. Yeah. And the FBI trusted him. So the museum won't let Tom go in there and spend 5 minutes to apply sticky stubs on this stupid parachute.
Well, I wonder why, because that has Bruce intrigued again, because we're kind of conspiracy guys. Bruce is more than I am, and I know you're not so much, but that has Bruce very intrigued that they won't allow Tom to do that. Like, why?
I don't think it's any woo-woo going on. I don't think it's woo-woo going on. I think it's just museum people being jerks about it, just being, hey, this is my stuff.
Stuffy.
This is my,
I
mean, like I worked in a museum. I mean, I did. I spent a year working for a museum, and I know museum types. I mean, it's a totally new crew. Like the crew who let Tom years ago come and do that stuff. I mean, there's a lot of stuff. I mean, they did a lot of stuff with the museum. A lot of, they had a lot of access to museum stuff. The old guard, but there's these new younger like millennials in charge. And like, is this mine? And it's like, okay. So I told Tom, look, how about you just send the stubs to these people themselves and say, okay, fine, you do it and send it back to us, right? I mean, if you don't want us touching it, then how about you just touch it?
Yeah, I don't care. That make it easy. Yeah, it's pretty simple to do.
Yeah, although they've kind of pissed Tom off, so I don't know
if they're being funny about it.
But that would be the best way to say, fine, okay, fine. You won't let me come do it.
Yeah.
The FBI let me play with the stuff. But I will mail you the sticky stubs. You mail them back to us. Because I mean, that would answer some questions.
Yeah.
Potentially answer some questions. But
I mean, for that matter,
that.
I wonder if any of the flight crew still had any item of clothing left. Probably not. I mean, it's 52 years ago.
No.
They could have been tested to see if any of the particles from the jet engine or whatever came up in there with the aft stare down.
No, the only two control items would be the parachute that's in the museum and the reserve chute that's somewhere in the FBI's custody somewhere. There's that. But the other thing that Tom announced for people who are interested, I mean, this is interesting. Tom confirmed, basically, he did some analysis. He confirmed that the money was not, that basically that the 3 packets that Brian Ingram found had been rubber banded together as a bundle, which is what we thought. They weren't.
Yeah,
like,
so confirmed, because I found an old
packets.
article where the Ingram say it had rubber bands. I mean, no doubt.
Well, it definitely had rubber bands on it. We know it had rubber bands on it, but whether each packet of $2,000 was individually rubber banded or not.
Oh, that was the question. Yeah,
we know
not
now
like all
that
3 were rubber banded, but each packet
had a paper
band.
strap. I mean, right. Just imagine it. I mean, if you go to the bank and ask for $2,000, they'll give you the little paper strap packet. But then
right, they'll say 50 the denomination.
Yeah, that's like 50 or 20, whatever. And so we know now, Tom has confirmed basically that it was $2,000 packets with a paper strap on each packet, rubber banded together in a big bundle. Passenger Jack Olmsted said that Tina was walking down the aisle, looked like she had bricks inside the bag, which a brick would be about the bundle size, right?
Right.
So a packet of 3.
So they came. So she brought them on the plane like that.
Yes.
That's the whole discussion, right? Where the rubber bands were on there before Cooper got it.
Yeah, because there was some discussion of when the money was found, had it been repackaged, like had it been rebanded or afterwards. But no, it was found in the same configuration as it was given to Tina. 3 packets, rubber banded together, rubber bands on each side, and then a paper straps down the middle of each. Right, so rubber banded, the whole pack, like so. 3 packets together with rubber bands around each. So Tom confirmed that.
Right. So it just that still keeps alive the theory that the money washed up, from the river somehow. Or
and now there's this whole thing that Tom's gotten into about how
kind of reassert that.
The weird thing though is, remember, the diatoms that are found on the money are spring diatoms.
Right. Summertime.
Right? So so the money did not get wet in the winter, which is. And now here's the weird.
Right. So there's no way Cooper could have buried it that night.
No. Or that Cooper's body went into the water that night, right?
Became detached from him.
Right. And here's the weird thing. The weirdest thing Tom said, it just has us all scratching our heads. Tom says that his latest experiment showed that the water. So there's a thing called, let's say dirty water and clean water. Okay, so say clean water, dirty water. Dirty water is so during a flood, you've seen think about like the pictures you see of like monsoons and like tidal waves and things. That water is very brown looking because it's all the mud being churned up. So anytime you see a flood, the water is very brown looking because that's like silt and sand and mud all being picked up by the flow of the river, right, or of the flood, right? So it's called dirty water. So that's silt, they call it. All right. Well, Tom has confirmed that his testing of the money has shown that there is no silt that basically it didn't get wet in a flood. So now it's like so it was clean. It's clean water. So it wasn't.
And none of that water's clean.
Yeah, it's clean Columbia water. So it almost gives credence to the weird theory that maybe Cooper planted the money there at a later time, like walked over and dipped it in the Columbia River to like make it look waterlogged, right? As if he had died in the river, and then threw it in the hole and kicked some dirt over it and walked away, right?
Yeah.
And, I mean, because the FBI, when this first happened, the FBI believed that the money, Leonard Palmer, he felt that the money had only been there about 8 or 9 months, So, but no, but that, like I said, so yeah, our thinking was that maybe like the money was transported by a flood somehow, but that's not true now. Now we know that it's, it was submerged in water at some point, the bundle, but the water was clean water. It wasn't flood water. So
So there's no
how
way
did it get wet
even
if it wasn't
outside of
flood?
a flood did it travel down there. So there's no way it could have
No,
traveled at all if it's clean water. It could not travel down the Columbia or
I
whatever the
don't think
tributary
so.
was
Well,
to
the problem
Bar.
is that no, the problem is that bundled money does not float. So like if you threw, I mean, we've experimented on this. Chris Cunningham did this.
Yeah.
We had a bundle of packets, and he put it in his tub, rubber banded the same way that it was rubber banded that night, and it sank within 5 minutes. So money's not going to float. Okay, so and Tom did that too. Tom put a single packet, in the water, and it sank too. So it gets, the bills get waterlogged in the sink. So the money was not transported there. I mean, I don't know. It's so bizarre. It beggars belief. Like, I mean, my assumption was that maybe the water I don't know. A flood can transport the bundles because maybe a flood could push it along with other debris.
Right. There's a force of the water.
Yeah. I mean, there is a big floodplain there. I mean, yeah, there's a big, so basically what my theory had been that, so basically there was a Flight 305, right as it crossed the Columbia, flew right over an abandoned railway yard, big old railway yard, like half a mile thick. It was abandoned, just weeds at the time. So I was thinking, well, maybe the bag, somehow landed, I don't know, or landed there, right? It detached from Cooper somehow. Or it did like McNally, who, when McNally pulled his ripcord, the bag flew off of him, right? So maybe the bag landed there in this floodplain, abandoned railway yard, and then they had a really big flood in spring of '72. And my thought had been that, well, maybe the flood picked up the bag or something and pushed it along with all this debris. What's interesting too is there was a tornado in '74 or maybe 72 actually. There was a tornado, like an F3 or something that was pretty big. That actually went right through that area. And there's some thought that like maybe the bag was picked up by the tornado and tossed or whatever.
Yeah, that's a new one. I've never heard the tornado theory.
No,
and
what's funny
is maybe the Fazios got dirt from somewhere else, and the Fazios dumped it on their beach.
Yeah, I mean, and there is a 302. There is an FBI file where they talk about money being found in trees. Like somebody called and said, "Hey, there's a bunch of money that's up in these trees." It was near Kalama, which is about 5-10 miles north of the drop zone. I was like, "Hey, there's a bunch of money in these trees," and this is right after the tornado.
Wow.
Yeah, I don't know what came of it. Maybe maybe the FBI went out there and looked, and it wasn't Cooper's money. I don't know, but there was money in trees. There's actually 2 people reported to the FBI. Hey, there's a bunch of money up in these trees. So after the tornado,
didn't some kids find some money? Didn't some other kids find some money? Like I don't know if that was the one that Galen Cook talked about or somebody else. Where kids thought they found some other Cooper money, but they never turned it in.
They said that they found some shards.
Someone asked me about that. I didn't know.
Shards. Yeah, it was the shards. I mean, basically, they found bits of $20 bills, like 100 yards past where the money was found, a week before Brian found the money, and they just didn't tell anybody about it because, I mean, they had no inkling it was Cooper's money. It was just torn up money. But they were like, "Oh crap!" But then when Brian found the money, they were like, "Oh crap!" We found money 100 feet down the way. So those are the famous shards.
Yeah, that's one of the things that Bruce always talks about. Like, there's always these stories about all the corners were cut off, but there was all these shards everywhere, and that the Fazio brothers said they even borrowed our equipment to keep digging to look for more money after Brian found it in 1980. But the Fazios were like adamant that they never saw any more shards, but yet the FBI wrote that there were everywhere. If you went down deeper, there was more shards, which would have lent more credence to the fact it got there naturally and not planted because the shards were everywhere.
Yeah. I mean, so I don't know, but again, it's funny. I asked McNally. This is one of the things you can ask a guy who actually did this thing. And so the benefit of having a guy like McNally, Mac's a very gregarious character. He likes to laugh and everything. Eric's theory, which I totally disagree with, is that Cooper landed at Tina Bar and buried the money on the sandbar, and then came back to get it. I said, Mac, would you ever bury would you have buried your money on a sandbar? He goes, ha 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 ha. He goes, no, never. He's like, never to know.
Mm-hmm.
A dog could just come up and dig it up, or maybe a kid on a beach could dig it up. Like it's like never money on a sandbar.
Well, speaking of dogs, the research I did with Nikki, that's the whole reason Dwayne Ingram was even at Tina Bar, because he used to take his dog George there, the former police dog, which is how George. He would take it, George over there to run up and down Tina Bar. But the day they found the money, George was not there, according to Brian. George, the dog, was not there. But that was the whole reason that Dwayne even knew about the Tina Bar, not being from the area.
Yeah, so it's interesting.
Just strange. No, the dog comes into it.
But what's funny is Mac actually told us what his plan was. Mac's plan was to bury the money. And Mac actually, one of his demands with the money was for a collapsible shovel, like a folding military shovel. And they gave Mac 2 shovels.
Oh yeah, like an army.
Those little, they call them e-tools. They call them, entrenching tools. So Mac was going to bury the money. Mac's whole plan was to bury the money somewhere around there, get back to his home, hotwire a car or something, and get back to Detroit, park the stolen car in his garage, take his car and drive to Canada, and then wait and see what the heat was, basically, and just see if the FBI were onto him or whatever, right? And then a few weeks later, come back and drive back to Peru, Indiana, where he jumped out, and dig it back up. So, and then Mac said that he wasn't going to spend.
McCoy buried his, didn't he?
He stashed it in a culvert. Yeah, he stashed it temporarily in a road.
That's right. That's right. Stashed in a culvert. Took a little bit.
He came back.
He took a little bit with him, and then he stashed in a culvert.
Yeah, and he came back a few hours later.
Yeah, so he wasn't too far.
And Rob Hetty actually jumped. See, when Rob Hetty did, Rob Hetty had a fishing vest on, and Rob Hetty put all the money in a fishing vest that was on his body. And he took off the fishing vest and stashed it in some brush. But of course, he was caught hours later. But so yeah, Cooper would have stashed the money, but stashing it on a public beach, nah, I don't. Especially in the open like that. Somebody could have been walking. It was only 8:30 at night. Somebody could have been walking their dog down the beach.
Anybody could get there. It was private. It was private land, but anybody could get to it. It was private land, but anybody.
There's buildings there.
Walk up down the Fazios didn't care.
You stand where the money was found. There's buildings, the Fazios construction buildings, which were there at the time, are still there. They're there now. It's like there's civilization like right there. I doubt you'd be digging a hole and putting your loot that you just risked your life for. You just go bury it in the woods. 20 yards away. I don't buy that at all. That's a stupid theory. Honestly.
That'll be an enduring mystery forever. I want to put this quote up because I don't want to forget, since we're definitely going to keep it to an hour, because I know the ladies will be doing their show here pretty soon. But I want to put this up because I love that quote. This is that quote. Wait, there it is. That's a quote. Where did that come from? I love that. D.B. Cooper is a celebrity unspoiled by reality.
Yeah, that is from the book about McNally's hijacking that came out recently. I was flipping through the pages. I was reading by John Wigger. John Wigger is his name. He's a professor. Yeah, you did. He's a professor at the University of Missouri. He wrote this book.
I was doing it quick.
Realty. Unspoiled by realty. Well,
really. Hey, they could be realty too.
That's right. His body.
Nobody
built an apartment complex. Yeah. Well, nobody built an apartment complex on top of his corpse. I can say that. But
that we know of.
But it is a good line though. It's true though.
No, it is a great line.
Cooper is a celebrity unspoiled by reality. And
reality, not realty.
I talk about all the time that the very existence of Martin McNally should scare the absolute shit out of everybody who ever investigates D.B. Cooper, because you could live a million lifetimes. You could spend all these million lifetimes investigating. Let's just say, for example, if McNally got away from it, the Robert Wilson mystery group, right? There'd be documentaries about Robert Wilson.
It doesn't sound as cool as D.B. Cooper, though.
But his hijacking is way cooler. It's a better story, but
way
like,
cooler.
you could spend a million lifetimes investigating the Robert Wilson mystery, and you would never, ever, 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 ever find Martin McNally, the unemployed gas station worker from Wyandotte, Michigan. Like, never. So, like, the fact that he exists should just scare the hell out of everybody, because it's like, are we ever going to find Cooper? It's like, damn, you know, he could be anybody. I mean, literally. So, but no, D.B. Cooper is a celebrity unspoiled by reality, because we don't know. We mythologize this guy, right? I mean, we have this image of him walking down the aft stairs, smoking a cigarette, you know, being all proud and brave and Geronimo. Whereas the reality could be that, like McNally, you know, Martin McNally was terrified. He scooted down the stairs on his
Mac
butt.
is reality. Mac is reality.
Yeah, right. Scooted down the stairs on his butt.
Down the aft stairs.
Oh my God. Terrified, like grabbing on, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God. But, you know, we have this image of Cooper being all brave, but we don't know what the reality was. Cooper could have been going, oh my God.
You don't know until you know you don't know.
Right, exactly. So we just don't know.
It's unspoiled, because it's whatever you want it to be.
That's exactly right. Cooper is whatever you want him to be. There is enough information.
Sticking it to the man.
Out there.
And the reality would ruin it. That's why a lot of people say they don't want it solved. It doesn't matter who it is. They don't want it solved, because D.B. Cooper is D.B. Cooper. I mean, it will always be a legend. I mean, if you find out who it is, it doesn't matter who. Even if it's somebody cool or somebody not cool, or even this dude behind me. If it was Rekka, it's ruined. I mean, forget it. The whole image is ruined.
But I mean, that's the tantalizing thing about Cooper, is that there is enough information in the files for him to be. I mean, like, seriously, I can make a very good case that Cooper was a criminal like McNally. I can make a case that he was a middle-aged, desperate businessman like Melvin Fisher. I can make a case he was out of his mind like Heinemann. I can make a case that he was a wuffo. I can make a case that he was an expert parachutist. I mean, you literally there's enough clues to be all these things.
You could. That's true. That's
it's so frustrating, because we have no idea what he is.
It's unspoiled.
Yeah, it's totally unspoiled. But yeah, CooperCon was good. McNally was there. Larry Carr showed up.
Yeah, put up a.
This
is a great picture of Nikki. Who's this lady with Nikki?
That's Arlene Gray.
Arlene, okay. I think I follow her on Facebook. Yeah, she's like a nice lady. Yeah. That's a great picture of her with Nikki. And then Rekka was hanging out there by the bathrooms over where y'all were having a few beverages.
Oh, bless his heart, Rekka, the KGB officer who used his real name on his KGB card.
Yeah,
Comrade Walter Rekka.
Yeah,
what a clown!
It wouldn't be a show with the both of us, so we didn't take a few shots at Rekka.
Yeah,
I see that guy that always argues with you over on the drop zone.
Well, yes, the thing is, look, I mean, we have three suspects who have grifts attached to them: Rekka, McCoy, and Rackstraw. You know, and the thing about it is Rackstraw. Look, if Rackstraw was 15, 20 years older, he'd be a great Cooper suspect. I mean, a really, really, really good
He would, absolutely.
He had all the skills to do it. He was a legitimate criminal, a murderer. He could have done it. And McCoy obviously did it. For all that we tease him, McCoy was a badass. McCoy was a Green Beret.
Oh, absolutely. No doubt.
And did it. But Rekka is a fake. Rekka never saw combat. He was cosplaying. This was a game to him. This was bullshit. Yeah. He was stolen valor. Yeah. You know,
absolutely.
He was just a liar, habitual liar.
Yeah.
You know, who just we know these guys that just bullshit. He's just a bullshitter.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah,
he's D.B. Cooper, and he's also. Yeah, and they know better. They have to know better. I mean,
it's the grift that keeps on giving.
Yeah, and it's like I don't get it. I mean, but I don't know. But yeah, those are the grifters. And like I said, we make fun of Rekka the most because, like I said, Rackstraw could have done it if he had wanted to. I mean, Rackstraw could have been a copycat. I mean, if he had thought about it, enough, he would have been. And then McCoy did it himself. But Rekka is just a clown. I mean, I don't think he was a petty criminal who wanted to invent himself as this great jewel thief in Africa, and just a garbage. He just sucks. So that's
it just goes on
and where we are now.
Bruce met Jeff Osidich, the guy that claims he saw Rekka that night in Cle Elum wearing a business suit in the rain and all that. And Bruce believes him.
Well, I
I
believe him
mean, not that
too,
Bruce doesn't
but
believe
I
it's
don't think it was
Cooper,
Cooper.
but Bruce believes that.
Mhm.
Yeah, it must have been some other guy. It just happened to be the same night,
Well, see,
walking in the rain in Cle Elum, Washington.
I will tell my theory real quick about Rekka real quick is that basically somebody at some point, maybe not even on the DB Cooper night, somebody, some pilot, ran out of fuel or, whatever, and did like a little emergency landing, on his Cessna and had to walk into town. And, some guy like a Sadisky gave him a ride to call somebody. And this guy ends up in Michigan somewhere at the VFW or at the airfield where Rekka hung out going, I bet them people thought I was DB Cooper. And so like Rekka like somehow, what I'm saying? Like Rekka like stole this story, right? And what I'm saying? Like Rekka like
That's
stole
exactly
that
what
story.
happened.
Yeah. So I think it did happen, but it wasn't Rekka and it wasn't Cooper. Or who knows? It may have been Rekka who just happened to be there that night. I don't know what Rekka was up to. I mean, I don't think he was up to. I probably watching TV, but like who knows? Maybe. But I do think that I think the event happened. I just don't think it was Cooper. I don't think it wasn't Cooper.
Yeah,
Cooper was 180 miles away. So yeah, it's just that's the problem with Rekka. They can't even get their bullshit straight. Like they didn't work out ahead of time.
Yeah,
Hey,
they can't even get it
say
right.
Cle Elum. And then Rekka said I was going to jump out
don't
the
say
side
Cle
door,
Elum.
but Tina stopped him.
Yeah, and then the recording with Rekka definitely gave away to his friend Carl Lauren when he said he was going to jump out of the side door, that he didn't know it had an aft stair till Tina pointed it out to him. I think that was
and
the
then
death
Tina's
knell
like,
for
"Oh wait, stop!
Earl Walt.
Jump out the."
There's a better idea. You don't have to get sucked into the engine.
It's just a joke. Everything about that is a straight up joke. But there's just bitching about Rekka enough for one night, I suppose. But yes, it's DB Cooper Day. It's not. We don't celebrate DB Cooper Day the day before Thanksgiving. It's celebrated on the date 11/24.
It's the 24th.
Yeah, like I said, you don't say, well, it's 25 days before
years.
Christmas.
Okay, Nikki, it was 52 years.
52, yes, Nikki can't
52. Add. 52 years old. Yes. So what time did what was the approximate time Cooper jumped?
I'm gonna say 8:13. So 8:13 Pacific time.
Yeah, I knew it was somewhere in there. I was gonna say 8:04 or 8. Yeah, somewhere in there. I know they don't know the exact minute, but somewhere in the 8:13ish. So
right now it's going to be
roughly in about an hour and 20 minutes from now.
Yeah, right now 6:54 Pacific time.
Pacific.
Cooper had just let the stewardesses go. Cooper let Flo and Alice go at about 6:50. So they're sitting in a car. Flo has to come back and get her purse, and Cooper tells her, "I won't bite," because he says, "Can I get my purse?" Which would have been right behind his head. And she goes, "Yeah, I won't bite," which I always like that line. Cooper says, "I won't bite." She goes, "Okay." So maybe right about now, 52 years ago, Flo is running back on the plane because the plane is about to take off, flying to parts unknown with her purse still on it. So she goes, "Oh, shit, let me get my purse." So she runs on there and gets her purse. And so, yeah, and Cooper right now is still messing with the bag. And Cooper's going to take off. They take off in about 40 minutes. So they took off at 7:36. So about 40 minutes they're going to take off. And Cooper is still messing with
about another 20, 25 minutes after they take off.
Yeah. Think about this, folks. We started this show an hour ago. Cooper was messing with the bag when this show started. Cooper will still be messing with this bag 40 minutes from now.
Yeah, that's amazing. I just, that is such a great piece of insight. Whoever it winds up being, Braden, whoever, we know anyone but Walt, but whoever it is, that's going to be such a big piece into him, that we would do that.
What a fruitcake.
Doing so many things right. Asking for the notes back. Everything that he did, but he's going to sit there and play with that for an hour and a half, like cutting it the way he said. That's amazing to me. I love it. That's one of the best things. Whoever it winds up being, I love that.
He was very OCD about something bizarre.
Yeah,
for sure.
This definitely somebody remembered that about. Yeah, you got Tessa coming up with Pat Boland on the DB Cooper Mystery Group. I want to put that awesome graphic you did back up. But
what's funny is
thanks for joining us, Ryan. Everybody have a good DB Cooper day.
That Dracula sketch right there, the Dracula sketch that Flo made for Unsolved Mysteries, looks just like Kaiser Soze.
Yeah, that's the one on the right, far right.
Yeah, it looks just like the character.
Looks just like Kaiser Soze from the movie Usual Suspects. Yes.
Funny.
He does. Looks just like
I love the little hoodlum. Yeah, and I love the hoodlum on the far left. He fits
Yeah.
perfectly. He looks like what's like Kevin
Yeah.
Meaney. Is that his name? Kevin Meaney, the actor. Yeah, Kevin Meaney, isn't it?
Yeah.
Kevin Spacey and Kevin
You got,
Meaney. Yeah.
yeah. You got some mad skills with the graphic art, man. I don't know
Photoshop.
how you learned all that, and being an attorney too, having skills at that level with graphics. I mean, you could easily be a graphic designer. You know, if you
Some
ever get
lawyers
tired of
play golf.
your lawyering, and you do
I
this
just play
stuff,
on my
which is
computer.
great. We're all really happy you did.
Good. Well, all right, guys. Well, go to the
Cool,
Facebook
man.
group and watch Pat and Tessa.
Pat and Tessa coming up at 9. Thanks for joining, everybody. Had a good group tonight. Had over 40 on the live. That's great.
Awesome.
All right. Thanks,
All right,
Ryan.
y'all. Bye.
Happy DB Cooper Day,
Cheers,
everybody.
buddy.